So hello and welcome to our Bumblemouse tutorial where we're going to be making this cute little guy today. Now you can either make him from your craft stash, or if you don't have bits and pieces, we have put together a little kit for him, which is with all the bits and pieces that you need, and it's going to be on our Etsy shop. It's $9.99 and that includes first class postage and packaging. Obviously the post office is doing a sterling job at the minute, but they are struggling in various areas with staff shortages, so some of the parcels are taking a little bit longer to arrive than others. Now the materials we're going to need, we've put together, let me just grab it, a little sheet here with just a sort of simple step-by-step guide, and it lists everything that you need. This is on our Facebook page in our resources folder, so you can download it if you wish. If you can't print, again, if you do order the little kit that goes with this, then this will be included in it for you as well. So the equipment you're going to need really is some acrylic glue, some super glue gel. I like this because it dries instantly when you're working, so it allows you to do things quite quickly. Glitter, which is obviously optional. You will need a tapered awl or bradawl to make holes for the eyes and arms and various things. Obviously you'll need a felting needle. You can do this with just a single felting needle, or you can use, if you have them, you can use a multi-tools, which just purely speed you up. A permanent black pen, and I think that's about it. Obviously your mat as well. Materials wise then, we're going to need some carded wool, so a little bit of yellow, some black, some white and some pink. But again, if you don't have these colours, you could do it any colour you like. I know when I do kids classes, I go prepared now, because you say, have you got purple? I say, well actually yes I do, because why wouldn't you have purple for a bumblebee class? You're going to need some sheet pink felt, some pipe cleaners. These are the extra strong pipe cleaners, and they're quite short as well. They're 15 centimeters, but again you can use just any sort of pipe cleaner cum chenille stick that you have. You'll need a little bit of thin wire for when we come to do the ears. You'll need some bumblebee wings. These are our printed ones that we sell. They come in sheets like this, so you can cut them out. And you'll need a little gold crown, obviously optional, but they're very cute. And then some eyes. So for the little mouse here, what we've done is we've used 3mm eyes on his face, and then for his antenna, we've got some little 2mm eyes that we've used for that. And I think that is about it really. So we're going to get started. Now then, the body and the head are basically the same shape, they're just different sizes. So we're going to make a little egg shape for the head and a bigger one for the body. So I'm going to start with the head. I'm just going to take a little bit of white wool. I'm going to pop it down on the table, or on the mat even. I'm going to fold it over. I'm not going to fold it fully in half because I want to sort of make it a bit thicker on this end, so I'm folding it about 2/3 of the way along. And then I'm just going to roll it round on itself quite tightly, because you want the head, whoop, got a bit of black in there or something, to pull that out. So you just fold it round on itself, and you can poke it through. Just take the needle out, so just poke it through, go right through, because you want the head to be nice and firm, so it's when we poke it in things like eyes and things, it holds its shape. So I'm just going to poke it through a little bit to get it to start to hold. And then I'm going to fold the other end up and round on itself. And you can pinch it in with your fingers. Now you have to be careful that you don't poke yourself, but it is a bit of a hazard of the job, so to speak. So I'm just going to poke that in. You can see because I'm pinching it, it's bringing it to a bit of a point. So I'm going to poke it all the way round. Keep moving it round. I'm going to poke it more down at the base, or down more at the base. Lift it up. Wrap the loose fibres around again. Again, hold it nice and tight and poke your needle right through. I'm not using a multi-tool for this, even though I've got them, because it's so small. You end up poking your fingers more than you would your actual little head shape. So I'm just going to work all the way round. Don't worry if it's a little bit lumpy or bumpy, because you can put a thin coat of white over it to smooth it afterwards. So that's one end coming nicely. So it comes quite quickly. I'm going right through with the needle because that's taking the fibres from this side to that side to make it nice and firm. What have I got? So, and then at this end, I'm just going to pull the fibres up and round. Again, just pull it back in on itself, poke it right through. Okay, now if you're working and you've got a mat that's dirty, you could just put a little bit of felt or something on top of it. Or if you don't have a mat, you can equally as well just use foam. Right. There's nothing wrong with it, it works really well. So anything you've got really, even those little scouring pads from the kitchen, they work nicely. So I'm going to poke it in, and I'm thinking about the shape of the top of the head. I want it to curve. So I'm going to make this little egg shape. So work all around, and I'm poking the needle right in to make it nice and firm. So poke it in and keep pinching it into shape as you go, because if you trap the wool in the shape you want, you're forcing it to stay in that position when you poke it. So it's starting to come. It's a bit lumpy bumpy, but that's all right. And you can use it. I mean, there's no definite size for a Bumblemouse anatomy, I don't think, but you can use your little template to help you keep to the right sort of size. So I'm just going to keep working on that. And if you find your head's getting really, really small, you can just wrap a bit more wool around it, because it will shrink in as you are felting it. And you're much better off having it firm, because the little head on this one, it's nice and firm so as it holds its shape. Otherwise, when you go to poke the eyes and things in, you just get in a real mess. So poke it all over, nip it in. So I'm getting a nice little pointy nose. I'm going to put a little bit more white fibre around it now, and that could be to cover over. I don't know if you can see like the little holes, and where I've rolled it, I've got sort of like little grooves and things in it. So I'm just going to wrap it with a layer of wool. Now, I'm not going to add too much bulk, but if you find you didn't use very much wool and your head's too small, you just add a bit more bulk at this stage. And I'm just going to poke that in all over. I think I'm going to try my multi-tool now, see how I get on. So I can just poke it into the surface to smooth it over. If you've got too much, just pull a little bit off. Okay. So at the back, there's quite a lot of wool there. So I'm going to hold it here because I don't want to pull off everything I've just poked on. So I'm going to take off a little bit. Get rid of that. And then just fold it over. And these like little wispy ends will just blend away into your work. I think I'll go back to my single needle. So that is a little head. So it's thicker at one end than the other, and it comes to a bit of a point. And don't be scared to squish it around to help hold the shape. Okay, so just work all the way around it. You can use your fingers to help you with the shape. Poke it all along and round. So it's quite hairy still, but a little bit more poking will get rid of that. And you can give them a trim at the end. So I'm going to just look, I'm just going to look briefly at the end of the nose here because it's a little bit rounded. So I'm just going to poke it in like so. So I'm just going to give it a bit more of a curve underneath. And just refine it. So have a look round, and anything that's sticking out that doesn't look like a little oval head shape, that's what you're going to poke in. Because if it's misshapen and you just keep poking all over, you're going to get the same misshapen sort of form coming through, but it's just all going to get smaller and stay the same. Whereas if you just have a look at it and think, oh, that bit's sticking out a bit strangely, then that's what you're going to poke in. Okay, so I think I'm about nearly done on that. So could do with a little bit more refining probably. So you got a little head shape. So I'm just going to put that to the side for now. And I'm going to repeat the same process for the body. So I'm going to take some yellow wool. Okay, and I'm going to fold it over sort of 2/3 of the way along. and then I'm going to fold it around, roll it round really tightly on itself, and start to poke through. Whoops, knocking everything over today. So poke right through. Okay, so you want to go right through so that it's not ending up hollow. All right, whoops. So I'll pull some of those little ends out and poke right the way through. And it's thicker at this end where I folded it over, so I can feel it giving, there's a bit more resistance when I'm poking the needle through at this end. And then at the narrow end, just twist the wool round on itself to think cone shape. So you're starting to make your little sort of egg shape, coming to a point at the end, all the way round. Okay. And it'll get firmer, again, as you poke, it will get firmer. So if you feel it's shrinking, but you like the shape, you're better off going with that. Let it get nice and firm, because you can always add more wool and just wrap it round it. Because otherwise, when you start poking in the stripes, everything's going to get really misshapen if the egg's not nice and firm. So I'm going to, for speed, start using my multi-tool. So I'm going to poke it down at the top, and you can see it's really shrinking in. So poke it really nice and firmly, push it right in. And again, just like we did with the head, use your fingers to help shape it. So you can see it's really squidgy and soft at the minute, but also if it's getting a bit long, you can squish it with your fingers and then push your needle through. And again, that's going to trap it. So I'm just going to alternate, because I feel with a single needle you can get right through it a little bit more easily. So you're going to keep working at that, okay? And you can see the shape starting to come. If it's getting long, because if you poke this way, you're going to sort of stretch the fibres out. So poke up in towards the middle, okay? And that will help if it's starting to get a bit too long to make it shorter, because you're pulling everything in towards the centre. So I'm going to work round more at the top, or at the tip rather, to get it pointy, and at the top you can poke down. Because felting's quite intuitive really. If you think about the shape that you want, anything that's sort of contrary to that, that's what you're going to poke in. So I could keep going on this, but we're going to be here for a very long time. Well, a little bit longer, but in good old Blue Peter fashion, this one I did this morning. So I've just kept poking and poking. You can hear it. It's become really firm. So I've now got a really nice firm egg, and you can see they're similar in size, but this one's still got a lot of squidginess in it. So to get it to this, all I've done is keep working it in, keep poking it, use your fingers to pinch it in at the end, keep turning it round, and it will eventually become nice and firm. And it'll start to feel a bit like it's never going to go, but it just does. All of a sudden, once the fibres start to really become firm, it starts to refine in its shape quite quickly. So it's worth spending a bit of time on it. So keep poking, okay, until you end up with a little egg shape, okay? So a head and a body. Now that little head shape to me is just feeling a little bit soft, so I'm going to poke it a bit more. It's not quite as poked as the body was. It's always a bit of a, what's the word I'm looking for? It's sort of a balance between showing you it right from start to finish, but also keeping you on this video for rather too long. So you're just going to poke it right through. So that's quite nice and firm now. So we need to join them, okay? So the easiest way to do that really, I find, is to use a little bit of pipe cleaner. So I've got a long and a short piece here. This shorter piece is just half a pipe cleaner I'm going to use for the arms, and this longer bit is going to be his tail. So I'm going to take just a little bit of it, not much, And what we're going to do, just like in the diagram, we're going to put the pipe cleaner down into the body, so then we can attach it to the head. So to do that, watching your fingers with your bradawl or awl, I'm going to make a little hole in the top. So on the fat end, it's going to be where his shoulders are. So we squeeze that down in. You have to go quite deep, quite far down the bradawl when you're using them, because the wool's so dense, the hole will close over really, really quickly. Now I'm just going to take these bits off my little tray and put some super glue in. So this is a gel, and the reason it's quite good is it's not so runny, obviously, and it allows you to dip things without getting your fingers in it. So I've just got a little bit of gel glue there. Dip that straight in. Don't wiggle it round, because that's when you tend to get it everywhere and it goes on your fingers. And just go straight down in and leave it for a moment. And then we've got a little post that we can put the head on. So towards the back of the head, I'm going to make a hole. Okay, so it's coming up on the bradawl like so. And I'm going to test it. So dip it in glue and straight in, and just hold it for a moment, because what that does is it allows the glue to soak into the wool fibres and not just to like any sort of the fine fuzz that may be on the edge of the hole. Okay, so now we have the basic body shape of our little Bumblemouse. So the next thing any self-respecting bumblebee is going to need, some stripes. So you don't have to be overly precise with these, and a bit of fuzziness is really, really nice. So I'm just going to take some wispy bits of black and fold it round on itself. You don't want to add a lot of bulk, to create ridges. So I'm just going to stretch it out. And when you've lifted some, you go to hold it up to your bee and you think like, oh good grief, there's enough to go around him about 40 times. Just pull it away, because with felt, it really is, with felting, what seems like a little bit of wool, actually, when you hold it up, sometimes seems like an awful lot. So I'm just going to stretch the stripe round them. Don't worry about the back here, because you can't hold the whole thing at the same time. And we're just going to poke that in. So I'm going to go around with my multi-tool, just for speed. Okay, and I'm going to stretch that round. If your stripe doesn't go right round, it really doesn't matter, because you can just add more wool on. Because these loose wispy ends, they'll just blend away into themselves. And you won't see the join. Luckily, this seems to be going right round. So poke it in. You could spend hours making these stripes absolutely perfect and neat all along the edges, which absolutely you can do, but bees are fuzzy at the end of the day, so a little bit of fuzziness is rather nice. So I'm going to put 3 little stripes on my bee, Bumblemouse I should say. So I'm going to get a little bit more, and again just fold it round on itself a little bit, tease it out, and go again. So, oops. So, poke it in. Pull it round. So you can sort of get a bit of tension on it, and you can pull it round and poke it in. Going to come from the other side. And if you pull it, say you pull it and it comes off, it doesn't matter, because you just get the wool again, fold it round on itself. I'm just going to actually poke those little loose ends in first to make it a bit easier. So I've got a gap, whether it's because you didn't have enough wool in the first place, or like me, you just pulled it off accidentally. So just put some wool again over the stripe, or over the gap in the stripe really. And then these little end bits, you can just see that, they'll just blend away into the rest of the stripe. And if you've got too much, again, just hold it down where you've just poked it in so you don't pull the whole thing off, and just tease some of those fibres away and then poke it in. Okay, and the same around this side. So just pull a little bit away and poke it in. Like so. And then one last little stripe, I think. So, fold it round and pop it round. Oops. And poke it in. Okay. So, stretch it right round. Just watch your fingers. So we're nearly there. Now then, just pull it in. I'm going to go down to a single needle here just because it's got a bit smaller at this end. So hold it with your fingers and poke it in. So you see what I mean? If this ball was, this egg shape was really soft, by the time I'd poked these stripes in, it would be really uneven. It would have all distorted. So, I mean, if that does happen, you can just add some more wool over the top. It's not the end of the world. So, all over. Give it a little finish off with my multi-tool. So you can just poke it all over a wee bit. If it has got slight ridges on it, that's quite a nice way just to neaten it all off. Finish it off. Okay, and you can obviously give it a little trim with scissors as well. You don't want it too fuzzy. And clean up some of the stripes in the yellow areas, but as I say, it's rather nice to have little fuzzy bits on them anyway. So, now then, he needs some ears and facial features and arms. So, I'm going to start with the arms. I'm going to use, I suppose this is 7.5 centimetres because these pipe cleaners are 15 centimetres and this is half a one. So, my wonderful mathematical skills, 7.5. So, it's a little bit more there than on the diagram, so I can just chop a little bit off it. But if you do buy one of the kits, that's what you'll get. You'll get 1.5 pipe cleaners, so you can just trim it down to size. And then we're going to cover it. So we're going to take a little bit of white wool. Okay, and if you did the thimble mushroom tutorial with me the other day, this is the same way as we did the stalk for the mushroom that we're going to use for the arm. So I'm going to take a little bit of white wool. Now if I just pull it, it's just going to come apart. So just by folding it over on itself in half, it gives it a little bit more resistance. So I'm just going to hold it and I'm going to wrap it around as tightly as I can. Okay, because otherwise it's going to go really floppy and loose. So just twist it round. When you get to the end of the pipe cleaner, mine's in there, so I'm just going to fold the end of the wool over it and back down so the little wispy bits are going to blend back into the arm and poke it. Now you've got the wire in there, and the first few times you poke it, you're probably going to hit the wire, but you'll get a feel for where it is and you want to go right through. Now, what you want to avoid doing is just poking straight down, because otherwise you're going to end up with your pipe cleaner with a line of wool on either side of it. So you want to angle the needle so you're just skimming past the pipe cleaner. So the action of skimming past it like this, if you imagine that's what's inside the arm, that's going to help pull the fibres tightly round the pipe cleaner for you. So it's also, you'll notice, going to go really hairy, because obviously, because I'm pushing the needle right through, it's pulling the fibres out on the other side. So just work your way all round and all the way along. If it's gone a bit thicker at one end, it doesn't matter, because you can just add a little bit more wool. But we're just making a start. So, you know, it looks all distorted and hairy. And the other end, I'm going to get a little bit more wool where I was holding it before so I can wrap it. And again, I'm going to fold it in half just so it doesn't pull apart in my hands. And I'm going to wrap it again just to finish off this end. So when you fold the end over, make sure you cover over the end of your pipe cleaner and come past the pipe cleaner by a millimetre or so, or a couple of millimetres, because otherwise it's going to end up poking out the top and going like, hello, I'm really bugging you. So just go straight up past it a couple of mil, which just makes life a lot easier. And keep turning it round. I can feel mine's come through at the other side. So I'll show you how to fix that in a second. So all the way along, keep felting. Now we're going to roll this in a second, but we don't want to do it too soon, because if you do it too soon, it just comes undone. So all the way along, like so. Keep turning it. So I can feel that starting to get a lot firmer now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to roll it quite firmly between my hands, backwards and forwards, and that's going to help to felt the fibres in. So let's have a look. So can you see it's gone so much, whoops, it's gone so much smoother. I'm just going to give it a bit more of a poke just to help trap the fibres in that shape. Now at the end, so you can tap the fibres in. Just be careful, if you poke it too hard, you will make the pipe cleaner protrude. So on this end, I'm going to push it back a bit more so you can see, and then I'll show you how to fix it. So my pipe cleaner is showing here. So all I'm going to do is take a little bit of wool, not much, because I just want to cover over this end bit. And again, don't forget, fold it in half. So I'm just going to add a little bit on the end, wrap it round, and again it's the end of my pipe cleaner's here, so I'm going to let it come a few mil past it, fold it round on itself and wrap it. Okay, if when you've done that you think, oh my goodness, it's got like one paw's 3 times the size of the other, just take a bit of the wool off, whoops, and do it again with a little bit less, like so. Okay, so wrap it round and poke it in. And there we have 2 little arms. I should have made one of these in advance, shouldn't I? Anyway, so we're nearly there. So poke it in, and the same thing, give it a roll and poke it in to make it nice and secure. So what we're going to do now, we're going to cut this in half so as we have 2 arms, which is always useful. And then we're going to trim a little bit of the wool away, so as we're exposing a bit of the pipe cleaner again. You could make both arms separately, but the only thing is they're so tiny, they're really hard to hold on to, so I find it easier just to make them as one. So I'm just going to fold it in half and cut it in half. Okay, and then you want to have a little bit of the wire exposed, so just be careful you don't cut through the wire as well, but I'm just going to trim the wool away, okay, like so. Get the same length on both sides. So I'm just going to trim that like so. So you could, if you hadn't felted your arms tightly enough, just by doing this they would start to fray, and you can see this one here is a little bit loose, so I could just give it a little bit more of a poke. So I have 2 arms. I'm going to position them on my bee. So looking at where the back of the head is, we're sort of going to, I'm going to mark the position of the arms with my needles, so sort of in line with the side of the head. Okay, and again I've put this on a little diagram, you can sort of see, oh, where is it? On here. So you can mark it just by pushing the needle in a few times, and then with your bradawl, make sure you haven't got your hand at the other side where the bradawl's going to come through, and you need to make a good deep hole. So I've gone to the deeper part of the bradawl, and then you can check your armpits, dip it in a little glue. Now when you're dipping, again, don't go like this, because that's when you get glue all over the place. Just dip it in and poke it straight in, and I'm going to push it in quite firmly and hold it for about 10 seconds or so, and maybe slightly less, just again to make sure it's in nice and firmly, and then repeat that on the other side. So I'm going to make my hole nice and deep, check it fits, put some glue on the end of it, and straight in. So I suppose you could probably do this with other glues and you could just let it dry, but I always like to use this one because, as I say, it just holds it instantly. It stays wet on your work surface, so you don't have to keep putting more out, but it does dry instantly when it hits the wool. So now your little mouse has got some arms, and if you've got like loose ends, you can just poke those in to neaten it all around. Okay, like so. So just poke it in to neaten it all the way round. Now then, there's a few ways you can do the ears, and I quite like to do it with a wire, because I was finding when I was just trying to put little felt ears on, because the ears on the little mouse head are so fine, I was finding the felt was breaking down a bit when I was trying to put the ears on. So I came up with a little technique of doing it, which I'll show you now. So I'm going to cut out 2 little pink ears, again just like there is in the template here. I'm just going to do it freehand. I'm going to cut them like 2 little round, I think somebody once said to me they were like table tennis bats, and that's quite true, I think. So sort of little circular ears, but you want to leave a bit at the bottom, like so. Whoops. Okay. Now, when I practiced this earlier, my glue was deciding it wouldn't stick, so I'm hoping it's not going to do that now. But I have made a couple of backups, just in case. So, this is just really basic, everyday, thin wire. You don't want anything too thick because it tends to show. But other than that, it doesn't really matter. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to cup this ear by pinching it between my finger and thumb to make a little channel, because that's where I'm going to put the glue. So I'm just going to pinch it, because you need to make sure you're not going to stick your fingers together. I'm going to put the glue on the wire, put it in the channel, not too high up, so like so, and then I'm going to squeeze it. So there's no need for me to touch the glue at all, she says. So if you're not comfortable with this, just do it with a little bit of acrylic glue and then have a cup of tea while it's drying. So just dip it in the glue just a little bit, and in that channel that you've already made by just pinching it, push the wire down in and squeeze it really hard. It's a tiny, tiny amount of glue is all it needs. Okay, and then you should have a little cupped ear, like so. Now, just to save a little bit of time, I made a couple earlier, and I've made them, when I made them, I've put them on a longer wire because it's easier to hold. So all I've done is just trimmed the wires on these a little bit, and now we're going to position them onto his head. So you can have them. If you're going to make a few mice, it's worth making a few pairs of these. I know when I do classes, I normally make up quite a few pairs to take with me, just to save a bit of time. So I'm going to mark the ears. Again, just you can use needles just to get an idea of where they would look right. And you don't want them coming too far forward on the head, otherwise it's going to look a little bit strange. So just on the top of the back of the head, like so. And again, I'm just going to make a little dot with my needle. Take that out. And then again, I'm going in with the bradawl to make a hole. Then I can insert the ear. Now, I'm going to just test I do like where the ear's going first, because although we've just made that big hole, it will close over. So I do like where that little ear is. Let's try the other one. And test his ear that we like it. So that's quite sweet. So I'm going to stick that. Now, just in the time that we've thought about that, your hole could have closed over enough. And the last thing you want is it sticking out like so, because as I say, the super glue will grip it really quickly. So just a bit of glue on the end of the wire and straight in, and again hold it for a moment just to make sure it's nice and firm in its join. Redo the hole and dip this one in a little bit of glue, straight in, and my mouse has some ears. The other nice thing about the wire is you can manipulate it around a little bit. So he now needs some eyes. So these are little 3mm glass eyes. If you don't have eyes, you could just roll up some little bits of wool, or you could sew some beads on, anything like that would do. So I'm just going to mark the position of the eyes. And they look quite nice if you put them down the sort of side of the face, not too much right on top. But it's really up to you. And I always think the sort of closer they are to the front, the sort of more baby-like they look. So I'm going to position my eyes like so. And I find it quite handy then if you turn it round to the back, you can see if they're even or not. So just as before, I'm going to mark a little hole there with my needle. And then I'm going to push through. Watch your fingers on the other side. I'm being very aware that it's coming through the gap between my finger and thumb. And again, you can test the eyes to see if you like where it's going. So that looks quite cute. So I'm just going to take that out again, redo the hole quickly, dip the eye in a little bit of glue and straight in, and hold it down because that makes it come really flush to the head and it looks sweet. So his little eyes recessed. So we're just going to do it on the other side where I had the hole, straight through. And dip the eye. And in. So you can see it's actually shaped his face as well a little bit by pushing them in so firmly. Now then, you can put the nose on with a little stitch or a little bit of black wool, but I find on something this small it can really be quite difficult. So you want to keep it really fine. So I've done this with my just with a black fine liner. Now what I have discovered with this is if you draw it backwards and forwards, the tip of the pen catches on the fibres and it sort of flings the ink around. So to avoid that, just more like dot it on, because if you go backwards and forwards it flicks the ink and it can make an awful mess. So just a little line down the tip of his nose, and then think of it like a capital Y shape, just a little bit coming in. So you get that. Now you can, if you like as well, you can just poke that in a little bit just to soften the line a little bit. Okay, so to my little mouse. Bumblemouse. Sorry, I keep calling him a bumblebee or a mouse. Now, let's see. He needs a little crown and his wings, but we'll put those on once we've added the tail, because the tail, you're going to make quite a big hole in him. So if you put all your delicate little parts on now, you're more likely to dislodge something. So the tail, I'm just going to clear a bit of space here. Needs a bit of scrap paper. The tail on the mouse, so on this one we've done it as a pencil topper. You can wrap it down round the pencil or you can curl it round your bradawl. But can you see it's got a nice sparkle to it? So we're going to use acrylic glue and glitter along with some pink felt to create that. So this is the acrylic glue I've used. It's by a company called Cosmic Shimmer. Now, I've tried regular PVA, and you know the way when kids put PVA on their hands and it goes like a skin and they peel it off, it sort of does that on the surface of the felt. So an acrylic glue or tacky glue, something like that, will work much better. So I'm just going to get a bit of pink wool, not too much, and I'm going to put a line. I'm going to leave myself enough to hold at one end, and I'm just going to put a line. Hopefully it hasn't dried up, which of course it has. Let me just get one of these wires. So let's try that again. So I'm just going to put a line of glue all the way along the pipe cleaner, and then with my pink wool, this one you shouldn't really need to fold it because the glue is going to grip it, and you're just going to twist it all the way along. Don't worry if it doesn't go far enough up because we're just going to add some more. So twist it all the way along, twist the pipe cleaner, twist the wool round, get a little bit more. Okay, so I'm just going to carry on where I left off, and as before, the fine little ends, the wispy bits, just blend away. So twist it round, and you can come past the end of the pipe cleaner because that will dry later. You can snip it. Okay, so I'm just going to twist it at the end to make it nice and tight. So it's still a bit hairy, especially where I added more wool. So I'm just going to put another line of glue along it, and I'm going to twist it the same way as you went before, otherwise you'll just undo it all. So just twist along. Now you could needle felt this, but I quite like to do it this way, and particularly because I'm going to make it sparkly in a minute. Obviously you don't have to sparkle things. I'm a bit sparkle obsessed when it comes to this sort of thing. So I've just put a few lines of glue around it and just let it soak in a little bit at the tip where there's no pipe cleaner. And then I'm going to get some glitter, and I'm just going to put it in the palm of my hand. I should have brought some wet wipes or something with me, would have been a good idea. And I'm just going to roll the tail all along in the glitter. So it really smooths it as well. And then once that's done, I'm going to give it a good roll backwards and forwards. And I'm putting a fair amount of pressure, not loads, but a fair amount of pressure on it. And I'm going to leave it to dry, so you've got this really lovely tail. Okay, now I made one this morning so as we would have a dry one, because when we twist it, you need to let it dry, because otherwise it goes all flat in places when you try to twist it around your bradawl in a minute. So the pipe cleaner is ending here, so I'm just going to snip that off, okay, on the end. Bring it to a little point. You could, if you wanted, dip the end where you've trimmed it. You could just dip that, roll it back into your glitter so that it's all nice. I'll pop that away later. I've got one of the, I don't know if you've seen these, you get these glitter trays where you can just empty your glitter back into it, minus the tail bits. And it's got a hole on the end, so you can just tip it back into your glitter pot. So I have a tail. Now I'm all covered in glitter and glue. So the bradawl, the white end that you were holding, is going to be the bit that's going to go into the mouse. So I'm going to hold it here, and I'm just going to twist it round a few times. So it looks like this. And then you can just pull it out, and you get the most wonderful, sparkly, twisty, twirly tail. It's a bit long, but I like it. So you can make them shorter if you want. Now, I'm just going to put it into the back of them. And again, I'm going to use my bradawl, but watch the front of your hand. So push it right in. Now, what you might want to do is, if you've got some fluffy bits on the end here, is just trim them away, just like we did for the arms, just to get rid of excess fluff. Okay, and I've got quite a bit of pipe cleaner there, so I'm just going to trim a little bit of it away. And as always, I'm going to double check it fits. So he's got his nice flying Bumblemouse tail going on, and I think put it in with a little bit of glue. Oops. There we go. Just push it right in. Okay, and you have a little, whoops, and you have your tail. Now, oh, there it is. I was looking for a bit more glue. Just give it, you need to shake this stuff, it tends to separate. Okay, you can get it on Amazon if you don't have anything like this. So it's Gorilla Gel Super Glue. So our little creature is coming on. So we just put the tail on. Now I'm going to give him or her some wings. So these are just our, I was saying to you before, I think, are printed acetate bumblebee wings. So you just need to take a pair. The easiest way I find to cut them out is to cut your pair in half and then just put them over each other. And I'll just get the bit of white paper so as you can see it a bit more easily. So I've just put them over each other. It makes the colour a little bit denser, a little bit darker so as you can see it. I'm going to need my glasses for this one. I'm just going to cut them out around the shapes. So, oops, there we go. If you've had our Bumblebee collection kit in the past, the one with the 3 little tins, there's extra wings in that kit. So if you've got some left over from that, you could use them. Or as I say, we do have them on our website. You can download them to print them yourself, or we sell them printed as well. So with the bradawl, I'm just going to make 2 little holes in the back of his, well, in his back. And I'm going to dip just a tiny little bit of the end into glue. You don't want to get it all over your wing. Insert it in and push it down in for a moment or two so as it will actually stick. So I'm just going to hold it there for a moment and then put the other one sort of in an even position on the back. I can't pick it up, I'm so covered in glue. Right, so if I'm doing that tail, so push it in and just hold it down in for a moment or two again. So as it gets a chance to grip. You got your wings on your little bee. So, now then, crowns. Crown is going to go on in exactly the same way. So I'm just going to get a little bit of wire or something. And again, with my super glue, I'm just going to dab it round the edge of the crown. You don't want lots because you don't want it oozing out the edges. It's not going to look very good. So I'm then just going to stick it, plonk it on top of the head and push down for a moment or two because again, it'll soak in and just give you a much better drawing. There we go. So my poor little mouse has got very hairy, but I'll trim her at the end, or him at the end. So, antenna. Now, we came across this purely by fluke one time because we ordered some eyes and they were far too small for what we needed. So, obviously, they make brilliant bumblebee antenna, or Bumblemouse antenna. So, I'm just going to make a little hole. I mean, you don't even need to do this one with a bradawl. You can just make a little hole with your needle because it's so delicate. By repeating, in the same place, just repeat that, and then you can see. You can just poke in the eye. So a tiny little bit of glue. You're only pushing it in a very short distance because you want it to stick up to make a little antenna. And one on the other side. So you just poke it down several times. Hold the ball piece of the eye between your nails so as the post is sticking out, and you can dip it in without getting yourself covered. And poke it in and again just hold it for a moment. He has some antenna. So we're nearly there actually. So I'm just going to give this a trim. I mean, you can have spent longer making it all lovely. I've rushed through this a little bit just so as the video doesn't get too long. Still not quite sure how long you can make a video on a phone, but don't seem to be having any problems with the memory at the minute, which is good. So give it a little trim all over. Now, we've made ours as a pencil topper. So where did I put my pencils? There we go. Unfortunately, it requires another large hole. So on the bottom of your egg, just mind the wings. You need to push it up. Now, I've sharpened my pencil on both ends so as it's narrower to get up in it. Okay. So take that out. I'm going to test I can get that in. I'm going to do it this end because one end's got writing on it. So you can now make it a bit bigger just with the pencil itself as well. So I'm going to get, oh, where have I put it this time? Here we go. I'm going to get a bit of glue all over the end of the pencil. Again, not too much. Let's spread that out a bit. We don't want it oozing out everywhere. And then you're really just going to hold it between the wings so you don't damage them, and really just push it up and hold it really firmly for a minute or two. So now I've got a little flower. On the first time we did these, we used buttons, little flower shaped buttons, to make flowers on just by putting them onto some wire, but I haven't got any of those at the minute. So I do, however, have some of these little pink flowers, which I'm going to give my bee a little flower. So I'm just going to hold it on his paw and wrap it round. It's like a little balloon. And there we have a Bumblemouse. So I hope you've enjoyed it. And don't forget, you can get the template that we've been using on the resources folder on our Facebook page. It's completely free. Or if you don't have any bits and pieces, we do have put a little kit together that you can get on our Etsy store, and I think the link will be on the video to that when we post it. So, whoops. Stay safe, happy making, and we'll see you soon. Cheerio.